Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to CJ and Tyler's Level Up Adventure. I am Tyler, the pro wrestling hipster, joined always by
CJ Carter. You know, I looked the wrong way. I'm still trying to get used to this, utilizing the space of our stream here. So, looking forward to talking about NXT, though.
Yeah, and well, you're back in your home base, so you're reacclimating. Although I guess that wouldn't affect what direction you're really looking. That's all just camera based, not really. But
I appreciate you trying to get me out of this, though.
Yeah, it didn't quite work the way I had planned there.
I just got to remember to be like, you're on the left side of my screen, but I got to look right in order to pretend like I'm talking to you. That's all.
Exactly. It's we try. But yeah, folks, we are here. We are here to talk about some NXT Level Up, NXT in general here. And but before we get rolling on that, I of course have to give our shout out to our partner on the interwebs, comicbookclick.com. That's comicbookclick.com/dirtsheetradio for all of your pop culture, professional wrestling, entertainment, comic book needs, everything all in one place. Check it out. Make it your homepage. Check it out multiple times a day, just like we do. Not because we're legally obligated, but because we love to. And hey, while you're there, get a peek at our sponsor, NordVPN, where if you sign up through the site for 1 year of NordVPN service, you will get that first month at a 72% discount. The savings are ludicrous, absolutely wild. But hey, as much as people like to talk about savings and VPNs and being able to hide from folks on the internet, that's not why y'all are tuning in today. You're here to talk about some NXT, and we are going to break it down, guys. Pretty good episode of Level Up this week. Back to three matches, which is fantastic. We were discussing Tuesday night our concern, and we still got our concerns, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But hell, let's hop into it here tonight. Our opening bout this evening with some tag team action. We had Shiloh Hill and Cutler James, or James Cutler if you like, taking on Uriah and Kale Dixon. I thought this was a pretty good tag match. And hey, Cutler James and Shiloh Hill coming out on the winning side in just about 5 minutes and 15 seconds. CJ, man, what'd you think of the opening match here tonight?
Yeah, I thought this was a really good match. I was a little surprised that they put Kale Dixon and Uriah Connors. Like, it feels like they were really hyping them up as a regular tag team. So if that's the case going forward, that's fine. But you didn't establish if Shiloh Hill and Cutler James were going to be a firm, established tag team as well. So it's interesting to see what I would consider the tag team between these two teams not picking up the win here. I don't know if that was just a odd booking decision or what the deal was, but if that is how they decide to go forward with it, with these two guys on the same team, I think they'll do really well together. Hill and James, if they decide to make them a team, I think they'd be doing well themselves as well. Great match as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, great work from both teams here, and I agree. I like the pairing of Shiloh Hill and Cutler James. They're different enough in appearance that I think they meld well together visually, and their styles are a little bit different too. But as far as Uriah Connors and Kale Dixon, I think they're really just kind of playing this angle with Uriah that he just can't really find that missing piece to help him really move on to the next step. But his frustration continues to build, it seems, as well. But I thought it was a good opening match. Really set the pace here for the rest of the show. But and good work from all four individuals in there. So from the opening bout, we went into a backstage interview. Well, not really a backstage interview, really a backstage segment. Kendal Gray approached by her good friend Carly Bright ahead of Kendal's match tonight, and Carly just hyping her up, getting her all amped for the match. Filling her with positive thoughts and good feelings. So she went out to the ring, busting with positivity, and that'll take us into our next match that we had here this evening, which was Kendal Gray taking on Olympic gold medalist Tyra Steele 1-on-1. Great action all throughout. Kendal Gray gets the win here in 5 minutes and 42 seconds. I thought both women looked fantastic here. I know Kendal won the match, so the match was more her story. But I have to say, on Tyra Steele, I am so excited for her to continue her journey and eventually get to NXT proper. She has got so much raw talent. Like, there's just something about her. Just, I don't know. It's just the that X factor, that charisma. But she's got that little touch that you need to connect with the audience. And the USA chants are a little much for me from time to time, but I get it. It's pro wrestling. Of course, just real kind of aside here, I'll always recall, I believe it was Yokozuna and Bret Hart WrestleMania 9, when the crowd was chanting USA for some inexplicable reason during a portion of that match. I'll never understand it. But yeah.
I mean, you have a guy that's presented as Japanese versus a guy that is full-blooded Canadian. I mean,
right.
What are you doing? You're just chanting for the home arena. That's like when if the Colts are hosting a Super Bowl between Dallas and I don't follow football, so I don't even know a second team. But or you know what? I could make a CFL equivalence. How about that? Ottawa versus Saskatchewan in Winnipeg's arena. Shout out to the 4 Canadians that are tuned in right now. I agree, though. Tyra Steele is an absolutely incredible wrestler. She's got a really engaging character. Like, her charisma is just off the charts, and her athleticism is right up there too. Kind of surprised that Kendal got the win just because of how Steele was performing during the match. And the fact that Gray won it with a quick roll-up kind of makes me wonder if they were booking to protect Steele in a way. Because she hasn't had a great win-loss record on Level Up.
No. You're right. It was a very quick kind of, almost, I don't want to say banana peel kind of win, but she slipped out of that dragon sleeper, and it was roll up 1, 2, 3. So, and again, they can maybe run this back and revisit it. But I was surprised to see Kendal, because she hasn't really been presented as winning. Neither her or Carly Bright, really. And I gotta say, I don't really. It's gonna sound how it's gonna sound, but when it comes to Kendal and Carly, as it stands, I really don't see either of them as a singles performer right now. I feel like they should just be slotted into that tag team division.
After this, it was either after their promo segment or during Carly's match where they talked about being an on-again, off-again team between Gray and Bright. So I agree. I think they should just be a tag team. Yeah. Which, again, kind of just brings us back to this conversation we've had more than a few times of NXT's got to figure out what they're doing with their women's division. If they actually have a solid tag team division, or if they're just, okay, you're going to team together for a while and then go back to singles. I hate when they do that, though. Yep. And I think that they'd be better off as a dedicated team.
Yeah, I agree completely. And they have the roster depth to support a, well put together women's tag division, but one step at a time. Hey, maybe as we're moving into the CW era of NXT, they can start to rehab that a bit. But the match itself, though, fantastic work from both women. As I said, look forward to seeing more of Tyra Steele in a singles capacity as she continues her journey as a wrestler. From there, we had a interview segment with Sarah Schreiber and Niko Vance. And I will say, I have not seen Niko Vance before tonight. I was not familiar with Niko Vance. Apparently, Niko Vance made his on-screen debut in a match on Main Event against the Gatekeeper, Dante Chen. And I did not see that. But so Niko Vance has appeared before, but they made something this was Niko Vance's first NXT Level Up appearance.
Yeah, I caught that too. And even to hear that he was on Main Event already almost kind of feels a little ass backwards, doesn't it?
Right? It does. It really, really does. But hey, this is how Niko Vance's journey has begun. And I have now said Niko Vance, I think 11 times. Really trying to hammer that name home, guys. Niko Vance. It's not. I even had to.
in my notes, I usually just do the last names and not the first names. I got to start doing first names for Level Up just because I'm pretty sure I even mixed up Carly Bright and I can't even remember Gray's first name. Kendal Gray. Yeah. I think just because they're both K names but yeah, Niko Vance at least has a look, and the promo that he gave during this segment the delivery was fantastic. The match we'll talk about a little bit, but as far as this promo goes, it definitely he's gonna have a lot of eyes on him. Once he hits NXT.
He's got a good look for sure. Yeah, his delivery felt very natural, wasn't forced. And I like how he kind of talked about, like, oh yeah, I was, Division I football. I feel like, by the way, everybody in NXT that's a newcomer was Division I something at this point. Every single one of them.
Especially now that they're recruiting through the next in line.
Right, yeah. But I like that you talking about how he's playing Division I football until he got kicked off the team for
punching his teammate.
Right, it's like
even as a story for as a story for a heel, it's like, oh, okay, so he doesn't work well with others, and he's got a short fuse.
So not going to be a tag team guy.
I get that WWE as a wrestling company wants to create some outlandish stories. And if this is a true story, then WWE has to explain why they hired a guy that volatile to work in wrestling. Like, we understand that it's rehearsed and scripted, but if you have a guy that's got an actual short fuse, that's when you led to like guys in the 70s and 80s getting stabbed in the locker room.
Right, guys. We don't want to, we like old school tactics in wrestling, but there's certain old school aspects we don't need to go all the way back to. Maybe it's a little overblown, but it's like, well, I put bubble gum in his hair, that'd be way too PG, really. But yeah,
I whipped him with a towel in the locker room.
Oh man, but yeah, it was good though. It was a good little character flourish. And we've said this before, they make the most out of the interview time they have on Level Up. They get 30, 45 seconds, whatever it is, and most folks really do get something across in that time, and that says a lot to the the promo training they're doing down there as well. But that is going to take us into the Level Up main event tonight. The families, Luca Crusifino taking on Niko Vance. I'm going to say it again. Niko Vance taking on Luca.
Now this episode.
Niko Vance.
Niko Vance. Kind of sounds like a GTA San Andreas character or Vice City.
It really does. Oh, man, where are you going? I got to go deal with Niko Vance right now.
But, Vance was the last name of one of the GTA main characters, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But,
so good to know they're really dipping their creative knowledge for just stealing names of people.
Yeah. A buddy of mine said, because he started getting back into NXT a bit, partially because we're doing these shows, and he's like, oh, I'll start watching NXT so I can kind of keep up with what you guys are doing. And he messaged me, he's like, man, the names on NXT, he's like, it really sounds like they take just an absurd first name from some just area out of the aether, and then a very traditional sounding last name, something from like the 50s or 60s. And he's really right. Shiloh Hill, Kendal Gray, Niko Vance. Like, it really is. Like, so the names from NXT aren't always permanent, obviously, but they could put a little more thought into something.
Well, and I mean, even just some of the people on the main roster, like I get names like Seth Rollins. Like, Rollins took me a little bit to warm up to, but Seth just still feels like not a first name of a wrestler. To me, is just like, oh, hey, go talk to Seth in accounting. Like,
what took me a while to get used to Seth Rollins was that he shifted from Tyler Black, and there's not a lot of Tylers in professional wrestling. There's been a few. God, no, I'm trying to think of some of the others, but so I was a little irritated.
I've got CJ Parker, who you might remember from NXT back in the day. Yeah, like CJ Parker went on to, or rather was Juice Robinson, and then went back to being Juice Robinson. Now we've got CJ Perry. I don't even know if she's still in AEW anymore.
I think she is, but I'm not sure on that.
Yeah. So definitely not a whole lot of roster to pluck a CJ from. If I ever ended up going into wrestling, I think I'd be pretty well safe to be like, I'm the CJ now.
Right, yeah, exactly. I had Tyler Breeze. Once upon a time. That was good.
Prince Pretty,
God. I will say, and that entrance theme, I always liked having on my iPod to blast out the car from time to time, because the beginning was it just shouting, "Oh my God, it's Tyler!" So,
honestly, like if I had your number and it didn't cost like an arm and a leg to call from the US to the States, that would, or to Canada, that would be your ringtone.
That'd be the ringtone.
It's just the Tyler Breeze ringtone.
It was a great song too. But anyway, I digress. Main event of Level Up: Luca Crusifino and Niko Vance. Luca picks up the win here, I think, pretty predictably. They were really making a point. It was Niko's first appearance on Level Up. But Luca gets the win in just about 6 minutes. Pretty good match here. I thought both guys looked great. Luca's good. Luca's, on his path to, growing and obtaining his main event spot. But I thought Niko looked really good here. I was watching him a little more closely than I was Luca, just because I hadn't really, experienced a Niko Vance match before tonight. But solid work.
Oh yeah, he definitely has the look. Like even just coming down to the ring, he felt like a intimidating, dominant presence. And then during the match, yeah, he looked really good against Crusifino. I was hoping that he would pick up the win though, just because that's kind of the trend of Level Up, where if the guys on the main roster, you're not winning. Even though this is the Level Up show, and like there's very little as far as not continuity, but the wins and losses on Level Up don't matter as much as on NXT proper. Same as main event, we don't hold wins and losses on main event against anyone from Raw or SmackDown. So for them to be able to shine a spotlight on the NXT Level Up crew, they should be picking up wins.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, awesome match. Crusifino is still one of the brighter spots coming out of the breakout tournament for me. His character fits in with the family so well, and the family itself just operates as an incredible unit. So I'm happy to.
Oh, you muted. I can't hear you, CJ. Oh.
This microphone sometimes. And I think that was part of the problem when I thought, like, my microphone has a mute button. Sometimes I would hit mute and it would still be coming through. I realize now, because...
Oh, I lost you again. Say something.
Hey, hello.
Oh, yeah, you're good. Yeah,
okay, good. I hate this. I don't know if it's the stream software or if it's my hardware, but yeah, shit, it is what it is.
but all right. But yeah, so that is NXT Level Up in a nutshell. So let's hop into our tradition here, the NXT Level Up Remedial Student of the Night, or I guess day, week,
afternoon,
however you like.
Well, even on the West Coast, it's noon now, so no one should be watching this in the morning, unless they're watching it on demand, in which case, good morning, whenever you're watching.
Yeah, but all right. So Remedial Student, CJ, Who you got as your remedial student this week?
I think I'm gonna go with Connors and Dixon. Only because if they are wanting to actually put them together as a tag team, they should have won, and they should have had, like Uriah Connors in general hasn't had a solid showing on NXT Level Up. Like, they talked about it on commentary where it's like, oh, he's finally found the right partner now in Kale Dixon. They didn't pick up the win, though. So has he, or is his search going to continue? If his search is going to continue, we'll continue to follow that. But if they are sticking with Dixon and Connors, then they need to do better to highlight them as a tag team.
Yeah, I actually agree completely. I had them also as my remedial students. I agree. Like, they've pushed them the last couple of weeks as a team. And I know that they've been, doing that angle with Uriah and him trying to, find that, missing piece to, kind of start stacking up those wins and help elevate himself. And maybe that's what they're doing with it. But I kind of like them as a team. I think they fit pretty well together. A little bit of a clash of personalities, but it works. But yeah, I feel like they should have gotten the win. I mean, they've really been playing the angle for a few weeks, too, with Cutler just trying to pick up that win. They could have stretched that out a little bit more. The loss wouldn't have really hurt him. Not that it really hurt Uriah and Kale, but it does hurt them conceptually as a team.
True.
So yeah, I'm with you. They also hit the remedial student section for me this week. But that's going to pop us into the happier side of the NXT Level Up section, the NXT Level Up Star Pupil of the week this week. And see, I don't know where you came down on this tonight, but I am giving it to Niko Vance. Even though he lost, I thought he looked great tonight. And, maybe it's just because I said it so many times, but I'm going to walk away from this episode of Level Up remembering the name of Niko Vance. Also, I mean, shout out to our Niko Extra. Hey, you've got a wrestler with your name on the roster now, brother. But I thought he looked great tonight. I loved his interview segment, man. Short of him getting the win, I thought his premiere presentation on Level Up was really well done. But CJ, like you said, he really should have gotten the win. It would not have hurt Luca Crusifino to have his shoulders down for 3 tonight. But otherwise, great showing for him. So, Niko, you are my star pupil this week. CJ, who you got as your star pupil?
I thought about giving it to Crusifino because he got the win, and honestly, like, the match order felt off to me. I think it should have gone the men's singles match, the tag team match, and then what I thought was the main event of the whole show, the women's singles match. My star pupil tonight is Kendal Gray. The story that she told as far as the promo with Carly Bright and the match itself was great, but to be able to tell the story of overcoming nervousness or anxiety, whatever it was she was feeling heading into this match, she managed to eke out the win. She had a great show of sportsmanship with the fist bump at the end of the match. Tyra Steele, kind of an honorary star pupil tonight. Okay. She also had a hell of a match, but because Kendal got the win, she's my star pupil today.
Right on. Yeah. Great choices. And I agree with you with that match order. Going into the episode after, reading the preview that WWE.com had put up, I assumed that either the Tyra Steele match or the tag match was going to be the main event. I did not think it was going to be Luca and Niko. And again, part of that was because I'd never even read Niko Vance's name until, Friday afternoon when I saw the preview for that night's episode of Level Up. But but great episode. Great episode. But that's going to kind of bring the discussion of NXT Level Up to an end here, and we will transition now momentarily into our deep dive segment and portion of the show. But before we do that, CJ, any quick plugs you'd like to hit for the folks listening at home?
Nah, not as far as plugs go. Like I'm here most Tuesdays, Fridays, Sundays. Every so often I'll be able to hop on Monday Night Raw to talk about that. But no, as far as plugs go, that's it. CJ Carter 22 on Twitter, and that's it.
I just now noticed too that our names aren't here below us as they typically are.
Oh, well, because we've got the star pupil caption up.
Oh gosh, yeah, okay. I forgot that was up. You can tell sometimes if there's a lot of things to click around in here. There we are. That's weird. I've never noticed that those disappear when there's something on the bottom. I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've never noticed that. Like
even on the old software too, I'm pretty sure it did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
My attention to detail is sometimes lacking, I guess. But hey, folks, real quick before we do hop into our deep dive discussion this week, go hop over to monk.com and pick yourself up some aromatherapy diffusers and relax and feel calm and better. I don't know that they have a pumpkin spice, but they should if they don't. But regardless of that, DSR 10, get yourself 10% off there. And hop over there after the show, you guys. But deep dive tonight. So CJ and I, we've discussed on air a little bit. If you watched the Rewind Tuesday night for NXT proper, you heard us kind of getting into the future of Level Up and NXT itself. We're in a transitionary period here. The next couple weeks, I'm sure they're going to be plugging it very heavily. You all know this. They're moving to the CW. And Level Up's access has sadly been a little difficult over the past few weeks. The last 2 weeks in a row, CJ has said that Sportsnet has not aired it after
after Friday
SmackDown time slot. Yeah, it's been Level Up the last couple weeks, and
even just getting Level Up on demand. The September 6th episode was up by Tuesday when we checked it, but it wasn't up by Sunday when we wanted to stream Level Up Adventure. Right. So, and the 13th is still not on Sportsnet. I had to find this week's episode through less scrupulous means. Yeah, but hopefully it's just a momentary blip and they end up going to more Level Up. I'm not super concerned about Sportsnet long term because when Raw moves to Netflix in the US, all of WWE's content moves to Netflix internationally. So I'm expecting if they do move the catalog of Level Up over, they may not air it live, but they may have it available on demand.
Right.
But that's up in the air. Nothing has been announced as far as I'm aware. We'll have to wait and see what they do in January. But as far as what that means for us here, you and me, what do we do?
Well, I mean, we've been kicking some ideas around, and like I said, it's even the in-demand thing because, like, I usually keep up with it on Peacock, as most Americans watching WWE content on in-demand do. It's also on Hulu. However, it will not be on Hulu after the next 10 days. So that, as a method, is out. So we are kind of, leaning on them, fixing whatever issue they've had. I don't know why they've kind of let it trail behind. We are hoping that as they move to the CW, that is just kind of a temporary thing. But that being said, it's made it difficult for us to do the show weekly. There have been a couple instances where one or both of us were unable to watch it without going through, as you said, more unscrupulous means, which I'm not a big fan of doing myself. I think most folks that do any sort of content creation, even for the smallest minuscule amount of money, get really defensive all of a sudden about people stealing shit. So I understand that, but we're still going to cover Level Up, and maybe it could be in a capacity where sometimes we're just going to be a week or two behind on the information. But that being said, wrestling is always changing and evolving, and we started this show to be strictly about Level Up, and it very quickly became strictly about Level Up and NXT proper, and from time to time we do discuss other goings on in the wrestling world here. So Level Up is still going to be a focal point for us because we love getting that information across to you guys, and as far as we know, there's not a lot of folks that relay that information to the internet wrestling audience. We're still going to talk about Level Up, but because of the difficulty that they seem to have been having in getting it up, we are going to start focusing more on some other segments and the deep dives that we do, and a name change is coming for the show as well.
And to that point, the name change is also going to encapsulate a wider vision than just NXT, more than just WWE. It is a wide world of wrestling out there, and sometimes there's a lot more that is newsworthy. So CJ and Tyler's weekend wrestling roundup is very quickly going to be gracing your screens. The Level Up adventure is kind of a side mission now, but I'm very much looking forward to what's coming next. I'm very excited for everybody to see it.
Yep, it's we're super pumped, guys. And again, we promise to still talk about the Level Up news and going forward. But like CJ said, there's just so much going on weekly, and we have a blast doing the rewinds, but it doesn't afford us the opportunity and time to really pick up on everything that we want to talk about through the week. And there's just always so much to discuss. So yeah, so beginning next week, while the Level Up adventure, as CJ said, will be kind of a side mission for us, but CJ and Tyler's weekend wrestling roundup will be making its premiere next week. So we're looking forward to that. We have a whole bunch of new segments that we're going to be debuting, a lot of fun, and a lot of deep dives going forward. Now,
the occasional guest joining us to discuss these topics, because as much as I want to be able to follow like everything wrestling, like WWE, AEW, TNA, everything going on in Japan, Mexico, there's just so much wrestling. So to that point, by all means, send us some suggestions of things that you want us to do as far as segments go. We had talked previously about like fan of the week or fan sign of the week, something like that, but also just wanting to cover topics that we normally wouldn't cover. Speaking of topics, we do have a deep dive scheduled for today, and of course it is still NXT related, but of course we had the news come out a few weeks ago that NXT Europe is kind of dead in the water. So as far as the future of NXT, we know NXT proper isn't going anywhere. It'll have its home on the CW until it also moves to Netflix in the US. But as far as growth for NXT as what I'm going to call a promotion within a promotion, like, is the cancellation of NXT Europe really the best? Shout out, Mac. Is the cancellation of NXT Europe a good thing or a bad thing?
It's as with a lot of things in wrestling, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's a bad thing in that you're not going to have that direct tunnel of talent, that direct tap into it, which was, I think, a big portion of why they were doing that and why they had an NXT UK prior. It gave them that connection. It laid that groundwork. So from that perspective, and the perspective of there won't be as many jobs for contracted talent, from that perspective, I think it's a big negative. However, from the angle of what they really should be concentrating on right now, I think it's a positive. They really should be more focused on NXT proper. And hey, maybe that's why some of the shortcomings have been, occurring with NXT Level Up. Maybe they are trying to put more of their focus on the main show because it is moving, from, the USA to a, broadcast network show in the CW. So like, maybe they're just trying to really focus more on that. And I think they should be focusing more on that. This is a really big change for them. I mean, NXT has gone from streaming solely online to being, revamped, rebranded, put on the USA Network for the last several years. And now moving from a cable network to broadcast television. I mean, hell, it's going to be WWE's only show on a broadcast network, which is also, I think, going to make them look at it as being more important. But back to, NXT UK kind of dying before it even got started. Like I said, negative in the regard of, the amount of opportunities that are lost from it. But I think positive in that they really should be focused on their primary show right now.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. Even just the discussions that were happening when they were talking about NXT expansion. So when NXT UK came out and you had a bunch of UK talent and UK promoters talking about WWE coming in and just pillaging the talent, setting up their own shows, and basically creating a regional monopoly. First of all, do you think, looking back on it, that was actually the case? And do you think that was part of what led to the demise of NXT Europe?
It's really hard for me to say how pillagey it really was, because I can't sit here and say that there wouldn't have been any of that going on, especially when you look at and consider who was running everything company-wise at the time. I don't think that practices like that would really occur that heavily again. And there's obviously still a good section of that UK talent that was brought through the NXT UK pipeline that's still there. I mean, obviously, like, Pete Dunne's everywhere. Rich Holland's everywhere. I mean, not everywhere.
Gunther, Tyler Bates.
Yep. There's a ton of talent that's made a really good showing of that. So
yeah, like it's a hard question to be able to answer, I think, especially for us, because we're on the outside looking in. Like, we're not in the UK, we're not in the wrestling scene really, aside from Dirt Sheet Radio, but
right.
I think there's an argument to be made that would also be the case with NXT Europe, I'm sure. But not in a really detrimental way. Like, I mean, we've seen the WWE kind of farming out their superstars for promotions like GCW and Evolve, and I think there's more potential for that, especially under Triple H.
Well, and if you look at, the relationship that they've, fostered with TNA, I think that maybe a lot of promotions aren't going to feel as, weary about working with WWE. Maybe they'd be less fearful about talent just being raided and ripped away from them because of how nice they've been playing, especially the last few months. As the regime change has more fully solidified and everything, so that relationship might help too. I mean, it's a different. We've said this a lot since we began the Leveckian era of WWE, but it is a different company now. And it's not just him doing things differently. It's the fact that they have a different parent company. Shit that flew under the old regime won't fly anymore. You're talking about, I'm not going to say that Vince obviously didn't. He had a mind for how to play corporate games, but not like the way TKO is going to. It's a whole different, board of directors, a whole different set of minds. And, they've got clear-cut ways of how they want to do it, and they want to play nice. They want to be looked at as a happy, good corporation as opposed to how most people look at most major corporations. So it's very different now. It's very different. So if it had opened up and got up and running, I would wonder if people would have had the complaints about talent rating and whatnot. Because I don't really think that's where they are as a company anymore.
Oh,
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I don't think that's where they're at now.
Well, I mean, you ask Tony Khan, and contract tampering is still a pervasive issue in the industry. But
right now,
apparently,
this very minute,
that the contract is being tampered with. Hey, I know you're watching this stream, whoever you are. Stop tampering with the contract.
It's not cool.
But I mean, even just as far as promotions playing well with WWE and WWE playing well with other promotions, like as far as what we've seen, it's only been TNA wrestlers popping up on WWE TV.
True.
Do you think there is going to come a point where, and I can't even think about like other wrestling promotions in the UK or Europe, or hell, even Mexico, Japan, other major wrestling hubs where we've seen WWE sending their superstars, but we don't see the other way around. Do we think that day is going to come, or is it just going to be strict temporary partnerships like NXT has with TNA?
I think it's a natural progression of the way the company is moving forward. I think there is going to be a lot more interplay with smaller promotions. Now, how much it's mentioned, I don't know. Like if they bring someone in from a smaller promotion, I don't know how heavily they're going to plug that. Maybe mention it once or twice, or just bringing the talent in. Sometimes it's enough. If your local indie fed has a relatively big star, and then all of a sudden he's he or she's on national television, it's going to help that local business as well. So I mean, there's a way to do this to benefit everybody, and I think that is the direction it's going. It might take a few more years before we start seeing stuff like that really happen, but I think we're heading that way.
As long as they get treated better than Ricky did on SmackDown.
Oh, poor Ricky. We are Team Ricky.
I cannot wait for his WrestleMania main event in Vegas next year.
It's going to be amazing.
The real story that they've been building to for the entire time has just been leading to Ricky.
Yeah, absolutely. Without question. But yeah, so with the future of them moving to the CW, do you think, we've talked about the viability of them as a third brand, a true third brand. And again, as I said, just a moment or so ago, this is the only WWE television show that's going to be on network TV. SmackDown ain't on Fox anymore. It's done. They're off. So the only broadcast is going to be NXT. So do you think that's going to have WWE start to lean more towards that it's a proper third brand for that reason? Or do you think it's still going to be walking that line of, well, it is its own thing, but, it is where people go to learn?
I think they have to walk that line. Like they need a developmental system. And unfortunately for, I guess, Triple H, NXT's popularity just really took off in the black and gold brand, and I can see where he wanted to capitalize by bringing in guys like Adam Cole, guys like Keith Lee, the established guys that you don't have to train, that you can bring in to make your guys look good. Mm-hmm. But now, and I think that's why they went back to the 2.0 model, because it wasn't working out as well. These guys that have already done wrestling training, got 10 years under their belt, I get the attraction of bringing them to NXT. Even guys like Drew McIntyre, when he came back to the company, going through NXT first, it almost feels like a rite of passage in some way as well. You spend a few months on NXT, and then, you move to Raw or SmackDown. Shout out Dragon Lee. But when you get the fact that it's still a developmental system, I don't know that this hybrid really works. Like, Julia comes in, has a fantastic match with Chelsea Green, but that is a main roster talent versus one of Japan's biggest female wrestling names in the last decade. So how do you reconcile that and stick them in a ring at the Performance Center when you're like, oh yeah, they're still very much learning? Like, it's a line that shouldn't even exist, let alone be walked on, but it feels like that's the way they're still going to be doing this, even if they take it on the road. And so it will be a legitimate third brand because it's on network television, but it'll still be a developmental system because it's a developmental system.
Right. And it is. And it's that, and it was a big problem people had with the 2.0 reset, was that a lot of folks got really kind of spoiled by that later portion of the Black and Gold era. NXT was never meant to be what it became in that. That was a lot to do with, I think, Triple H's frustrations with VKM, and wanting to prove that, well, I can book the way I want to book and people are going to praise it. And, I need to prove that I can do this and do it better than I think you're doing it. And he did that.
Especially when you had like the NXT pay-per-views that were getting better reviewed than, like they were airing NXT on the Saturday, WWE pay-per-view on the Sunday, and they're like, give us more of this.
Yep, the highlight of the weekend were the takeovers, Yeah. But, eventually, that's not what NXT was designed to be. And they did that reset, and it became, again, where you're watching good talent, but new talent, learn and become who they're going to be. And I think a lot of people rejected it for that reason. It on the surface, it was more like, oh, Vince is just, ruining it, and it's going to be on USA, and they're going to fuck it all up. And yeah, there was an aspect of people rejecting it for that reason, but I think a lot of people forgot what it was even supposed to be. So since then, it's been on that path of having to walk that really thin line of third brand, a developed brand, and developmental. And, they pull it off 90% of the time pretty well. Sometimes there's some shortcomings on it. But yeah, I think that is going to be the way they continue to move forward with it. And with it, being on a broadcast network, and SmackDown being on the USA Network now, and Raw moving to Netflix, I'm thinking that we're not going to see as much main roster involvement going forward. Obviously, for the first couple shows, we've got CM Punk at the Chicago show, which fans apparently coming out in force for CM Punk on that first show. Not so much for Randy Orton in St. Louis. They have moved the venue of the October 8th episode of NXT due to poor ticket sales, which is not a great sign for them being on the road either.
But I also don't think that's an issue with NXT. I think that's just an issue with Missouri wrestling fans that look at the NXT brand still with a sense of, this isn't worth my time. Like, I think there's a mix of the fans that were buying tickets that were just going because, oh, local guy Randy Orton is going to be there. Right. And I'm sure if it was a regular episode of Raw or SmackDown, they would have been able to fill that no problem. But it is going to be kind of a slow build for NXT if they do want to take them on the road permanently, which I do think that they should. But they should be looking at markets where they kind of have a better projection of being able to sell out, as opposed to, oh, we're going to Missouri, let's put Randy Orton in there. Oh, we're going to Cleveland, let's stick the Miz on there. Right. Speaking of Miz showing up on Miz TV on October 1st as well. So I don't think we are going to see a reduction of main level stars. I feel like that is the new norm as far as NXT goes, and especially if they want to fill arenas, they should look at it from like, okay, we need to move some tickets. Let's bring so-and-so down from Raw because they're selling tickets. Can we extend this to NXT? Yes. Okay, great. Let's keep doing this. So I think it is just the new norm of a blend of main roster talent and developmental.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's there's a lot of moving pieces here, and it's, you know, I feel like, you know, since we've moved into the Leveckian era, there's just been so many changes, not just like from production standpoints and, you know, who's getting pushed and how things are being booked, but how they're presenting their three brands. And it's going to be interesting as everything moves into its new homes for what are these deals? 5-year deals, right? So SmackDown's locked into
either
USA
3 or 5, yeah.
And USA, so USA is going to have SmackDown for at least the next 3 to 5, and then I think the Netflix deal is 5 years with the option to expand it to 10.
Sounds about right.
So if that, you know, goes well, which I feel that it's going to go extremely well for them, you know, you could be looking at least the next decade of Raw being on Netflix, and possibly, depending on how well that goes, Netflix could be like, well, hell, we want everything, you know, and that's kind of the way it's going in, you know, in the Great White North there anyway, is that they're going to have everything encapsulated with the network through Netflix. So it's
and I imagine that that's eventually going to extend to UFC as well. If they look at it of like, well, WWE is doing these numbers, UFC is still beating WWE hands down. It just has a wider fan base. So if Netflix really wants to extend this partnership with TKO to include UFC, that in itself also feels natural. Mm-hmm. And they may just say, here's the keys to the kingdom, Netflix, it's all yours. And, you know, Netflix will just be raking in the money.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that's plotting new territory. Not just for WWE, but for professional wrestling in general. This is, you know, Raw moving to Netflix, you know, and maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe it's just me kind of feeling this way, but like, I haven't really viewed a move like this since the WWE Network launched. When that happened, I was like, this is it. This is revolutionary. This is, you know, changing how professional wrestling is going to be done and absorbed and taken in. And largely it has changed that. You know, it's that they were that first wrestling streaming. And now Raw moving to Netflix, it's going to be the first time a live produced show is on Netflix. You know, when you look at the numbers of people dropping off of cable and picking up streaming, there is a large percentage of people in the United States, at least, that's the numbers I've read. I don't have like worldwide numbers here. There's a very large portion of people who have either cable or Netflix, but not both. And it's becoming a larger number that has the Netflix and not the cable, and especially with younger people. It's more folks that have Netflix. So they're going to find a new audience here with Netflix. They're going to find a younger audience with Netflix. And I think they're going to find a larger audience with Netflix. And I think that will raise all boats. Everything's going to raise from that.
And I think that's something that's, it's not only going to be a younger audience, it's an audience that already has a stake in Netflix, you know, whether it's the original content that they make or just the repository of other people's films. So I think that there is a large opportunity for growth of the platform itself. I just don't want to see them doing like channels. Like, I don't want to see a WWE channel on Netflix, because chances are that's going to mean an additional surcharge on top of my Netflix membership. They do this with a few different streaming platforms here, like Prime Video, for example. I don't know how they operated down in the States, but here, like Stack TV and, you know, all those other channels, Crave has HBO. They do the same thing. It's just an additional surcharge. And even though I know that's probably where they're going with this, I'm still going to protest because it sucks. But still better than cable.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. At least I like having as many things in one location as possible. But yeah, but that
part of it's that. Part of it is just the on-demand nature of streaming versus the you watch what we tell you to watch model of cable. Like for when WWE Network originally launched in Canada, the telecom company Rogers essentially had first bid on or first exclusivity for the network in Canada. So you had to have a cable subscription in order to watch it. Now I can just subscribe through Sportsnet Plus and it's fine and dandy. And I think it's largely Canadian radio telecommunications policies and laws that allow this to happen. So that's why I think it's going to happen as well, just because that seems to be the new norm.
Right. Well, but with what I think will be an expanding audience with Netflix, and kind of leading back into that raising, the tide raising all boats there, I think that will help buoy NXT as well. Because it's that's the thing. Like, you talk having cable, you talk having something like Netflix, and then you've got your over-the-air digital antennas, which is what I will be using to watch NXT. And what a lot of people, the CW is just an over-the-air network. And so, if you've got Netflix, but not cable, you probably have a digital antenna still. I'd like to see the numbers actually on that, how many people have those. But like, if you have, you can, pay for your Netflix and, watch Raw and, whatever WWE content that you end up getting there. And then you can basically watch NXT for free on the CW. I think that might end up getting them more viewers in the long run.
And I mean, as far as the CW streaming, like they have a CW app that you can access the shows on as well. Have they talked about the CW app as it relates to Netflix or as it relates to NXT?
Not to my knowledge. I'll have to poke around, and I haven't looked at the CW app since Arrow was still airing. So it's been years since I've looked at that app. So I'll have to poke around on it and see if there's, if they're plugging it perhaps. And again, though, I don't know if there's, I'd assume that all be sort of an in-demand thing. If they did carry it through the app, it wouldn't be live, I would think, unless it's somehow tied into your, local streaming channels. But
that might be like it's available on cable live and then on demand through the app the next day kind of thing. Because I think that's what they did with those Arrowverse shows. When they liked VPNs a little bit better, I was able to get in and watch them if I wasn't able to catch it on cable. So I also have some experience with the CW app. And speaking of the CW app, one thing that I completely forgot was even a thing on the CW, NWA Power.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Is that another potential crossover here? Like, because there's network consurgence, I don't think consurgence is the right word or even a word, but convergence. I think that was the synergy. Like, because the CW has NWA programming and WWE programming, is that another potential looming partnership?
I think so. It'd be a pretty natural fit. And I'm sure Billy Corgan would absolutely love that if they could get some more eyes on the product that way. The only reticence I think that WWE or TKO would be the the controversy that kind of kept them from getting a more full contract with the whole cocaine spot on pay-per-view. But people make mistakes. It was a bad idea. It's not like WWE hasn't done dumb shit live on air over the years. So, but yeah, there's a lot of great talent there that would be fun to see cross over into that NXT realm. And hell, if you're keeping that TNA relationship healthy, you can end up seeing talent from NWA tangle up with talent from TNA in a WWE setting. Like it's wild, guys. It's a really exciting time to be a wrestling fan, especially at the NXT level.
What was that WCW versus ECW match that took place on Monday Night Raw back in the day?
Oh gosh! So it was it happened on ECW. So it was Taz, a WWF contracted wrestler, beating Mike Awesome, a WCW contracted wrestler, for the ECW World Championship. Yeah. So it's like, that's like one of those once in a lifetime, 1 in a million chances for that to happen. We might get into opportunities like that a little more regularly, where we're seeing such a wide amount of crossover as people move from one company to the other. We're going to see that a lot more too. Like, we already see talent jumping from WWE to AEW, and some have gone back and forth already. So it's interesting times in a good way.
But imagine the minds of wrestling purists being blown to see the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship on WWE TV.
Without having to blur it this time.
Man, what a time to be alive, eh?
Yeah, it is. It is wonderful. It's a wonderful time to be a wrestling fan, guys. But I feel like that's we took that to a pretty good conclusive point. But was there anything else you wanted to touch on today before we kind of hop into our closing plugs?
I miss our truth. Like, literally just a thought that I had in the last 5 seconds of like, man, I miss our truth.
Yeah, since he and Miz lost the tag straps, he's not been featured as heavily. But hey, I'll say this, he got taken
out by Bronson Reed.
That's true. Well, that's why he's been doing so much work on the socials. He's been doing a lot of like reels and IG live videos and stuff. He's hilarious. If you don't follow R-Truth on the social medias, you should. He does a lot of fun videos and skits and stuff. So
who was that that he was calling on their Instagram live when they were live having sex?
Yeah.
And R-Truth is just in the comments. It's like, what are you doing?
He's home, okay? He's having a good time. He's got to make his own fun,
True.
R-Truth. Well, come back soon, R-Truth. Heal up. Fucking Bronson Reed taking you down. Oh, goodness gracious. But folks, I want to tell y'all first that we appreciate everyone that's watching live with us today and hanging out with us as we discuss NXT and Level Up and things in the wrestling world beyond that. But I've got some really great news for you. If you had a good time here today, this isn't all Dirt Sheet Radio does. It'd be really weird if it was, but it's not. There's a lot that goes on here at Dirt Sheet Radio. Professional wrestling never slows down. It never stops. And Dirt Sheet Radio, for that reason, is always on. We are here live every Monday night, breaking down Raw for you. Here on Tuesdays, doing NXT. Wednesday nights, we're made for AEW Dynamite. Thursdays, we've got our, what I view as our sister program, the TNA Impact Rewind. And, of course, Fridays is for SmackDown with the new logo. SmackDown
logo.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's just
that,
garbage.
To say what Caesar said, the college intern that did that should not be getting college credit for it. It is not good.
Take away their graduation.
Yeah, no, it's done. That they're revoking their degree. But also, guys, on Wednesday nights, late into the night after the AEW Rewind, if you want to check out the Dirt Sheet Radio flagship show, the guys are late into the hours of Thursday morning. But hey, if you're like me and you don't want to stay up super duper late, check it out Thursday mornings when it's posted. It's there every week. Lots of fun. On Sundays, it's not just us doing stuff on Sundays. We've got the boys over at 3NT breaking down wrestling and shooting the breeze live and having a good time every week. So be sure to check them out when they go live or watch them in demand like you're doing us or live like you're doing us, whatever. Just check them out. It's a good time, guys. And also, Sundays, the Level Up adventure will be continuing as a side quest, but as CJ and I told you, we are going through a rebrand and a name change. CJ and Tyler's Weekend Wrestling Roundup will be beginning next week with a focus on Level Up as we continue our adventure there as well. But so looking forward to that. Always a good time. CJ, where will the folks see you next?
Well, Tyler, they will see me. I nailed it this time. I'll be here on Tuesday. Unfortunately, I got to sit out on Raw this week, but the 30th, I will be back on Monday nights. Tuesdays for NXT, Fridays for SmackDown, Sundays for the weekly wrestling roundup going forward. Try saying that 5 times fast. Like, we were even talking about this before, where it's like alliteration is cool, and I love the title. I just got to get used to saying it, I think. Also, since this is the last official episode of Level Up Adventure, I feel like we have to at least shout out the fact that as of right now, we have as many viewers of Level Up Adventure as Raw and SmackDown and NXT get on a weekly basis. So thank you to everybody that has tuned in over the last few months that we've been doing this. And to anybody that said no one was going to watch Level Up Adventure, hey, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. People do, and they will. They will continue. And like I said, we're still going to talk about Level Up on here, but yeah, our focus will be shifting a bit. But yeah, it's amazing the support that we've had for this, and like I said, we love you guys, and we genuinely appreciate every single one of you that watch us live, on In Demand, that comment, that send us stuff. Positive and negative, guys. Like, feedback's feedback, and we appreciate everything said to us, even if sometimes it's kind of mean. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, there was a lot of naysayers on this, but people want to hear about Level Up, and we will continue to tell you guys about Level Up, but we're going to be talking about a lot more stuff going forward, and hey, we will continue to need your support on that, and we're going to be opening up a lot more to you guys. We want suggestions for topics and deep dive ideas. Hell, if you think it's something that's going to make CJ and I argue, go ahead and throw it. It probably won't. We get along really well, so good luck. But
super well.
But,
like, frighteningly well for 2 people that have never actually met in real life before.
Yeah. It's wild, guys. It's wild. I don't know that I have any Canadian relatives, but I very well might. So, but we love it and we appreciate all the support, guys. So again, thank you so much. And we'll be back next week with some more of this. I should be on Raw tomorrow night. I'm not 100% on that. It's still a little up in the air. But definitely be here Tuesday night for our for NXT, and next weekend for the rebranded CJ and Tyler's Weekend Wrestling. I'm already fucking it up. We'll get there though. We'll get there. Weekend Wrestling Roundup. That's 3 W's. That's right. We're spelling Roundup with a W. So
whether you like it or not.
That's right. You have no choice in this. We hold the microphone, and you will listen to everything we say about it. But guys, it's going to be a good time. We're really looking forward to that. And but as far as Dirt Sheet Radio, regardless of whether or not CG and I can make it for Raw tomorrow night, we will be here live. There will be a Dirt Sheet Radio Monday Night Raw rewind. And we'll see all you guys live tomorrow night. We will be back next week for the rebranded show, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you then.